so I just started recording. Okay, so what are you currently working on?
So I work at Google in the San Francisco office, and I work for the large customer sales organization. And so it's really advertising sales, and it's really focused on our division's focused on Fortune 100 companies, so larger companies, and finding advertising and marketing solutions for the tech vertical. I'm specifically within that vertical, within the hardware and handset sub vertical. So our customers are HP, Motorola, Nokia, um, in that set, so smartphones and PC manufacturers for the most part.
Okay, and what's
And we
this?
focus on advertising. Yeah, go ahead.
No, what specifically do you do? I was going to ask you, but I think you're going to answer that.
Yeah, so we focus on advertising solutions for those customers, and that specifically falls within Google properties, so google.com, and then YouTube, the Google Display Network, just to name a few. I focus a lot on search engine marketing, so that's advertising solutions around google.com and our search partner network.
Okay. And what is most rewarding about your job?
What I found, and it's really interesting, I think this is part of what I really loved about Duke and especially Tony's class, Tony Brown's class, is the teamwork. And that might sound cliche, but the people that Google brings together from different backgrounds, all of them are driven, they love to have fun, they're committed to what work they're doing, but they're also really good people. They're googly, as we call them. And my team, we work with a team of 8 people.
Okay.
And we sit all together in one sort of bullpen. And that collaboration, and you just develop really incredible bonds. They definitely are my family. You spend more time with people at work than you do with the people in your personal life. So the team is something I really love about it. And then working for a company like Google, the innovation that's around you, these engineers that they're working on incredibly brilliant things, and just watching what they do, the way they innovate, they're not afraid to fail. I think that's another really cool thing about Google. It's just working for a company that's as big as it is now, and it's in its teen years. They're not afraid of failure, and they're willing to try crazy things. And people say, why is Google going that direction? Google Glass is a really cool example of some of the innovative things we're doing. So I think working for that type of working in that environment is really inspiring.
Yeah. What class of Tony's did you take while you were at Duke?
I took PCS 144 Enterprising Leadership,
Okay.
and you were here as a sophomore when I took it, and that was back in 2003, so 10 years ago. And I'd have to say that it's got to be my most favorite class at Duke, and one that probably impacted my life the most. And I'm sure you hear that from a lot of Tony Brown alums.
Yeah, I took social entrepreneurship in action with Tony Brown, so there was also a lot of teamwork. I definitely understand what you mean when you say that you spend a lot of time with your team, more than you do with your friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my next question was going to be, what is the most important skill you learned at Duke that you apply in your everyday life? Was it that teamwork, or what other skills that you learned at Duke do you apply?
Teamwork for sure. I'd say I learned how to really know your audience. I learned the importance of that. So what I mean by that is when you're sitting down to talk with someone, are they your peer? Are they a community leader that they have certain preconceived notions about Duke students, or they're coming from a different perspective? Are you talking to a professor? Are you talking to somebody that could be a potential donor, or a potential someone who's interested in maybe helping you develop in your career? Are you just understanding really where they're coming from and building that connection from a genuine place? I think I really learned that at Duke, especially within Tony's class, and then that's become really important too in my day-to-day work with Google, knowing our customers, really knowing when we're going in to talk to them and have a meeting, we need to know where they're coming from. And from their perspective, they need to know their audience, because it's about marketing to a consumer, to someone who's your age, and really understanding what they're interested in. So I think I learned that at Duke, especially with Tony's class. And then I think Tony also taught me that when you're thinking about making an impact, knowing, identifying a need, that's really important. So what is really a need that is obvious, that's out there? Because there's a lot of things you can go work on and you can be passionate about, but is there really a clear need for it? And that's powerful. If you find something that is really needed, and it's sort of one of those ideas that other people say, why didn't I think of that? I think you can take off and soar.
Yeah. What steps did you take right outside of college that led you to where you are today?
So with the public policy internship, I was always really interested in it. I did the media and journalism certificate within public policy. So okay. I was interested in media. Yeah. And Elise Goldwasser, who's a favorite of everybody's in public policy, she helped me figure out where I was going to go for my internship between junior and senior year. And I went to Larry King Live at CNN back when that show was on the air. So I was incredibly lucky to be in DC and to be a part of that show. And I think that was TV journalism, obviously. And then really enjoyed that, but sort of figured, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to go the creative route or the production route. So let me look into the business side, more advertising side of media. And within the Duke, I guess, interview process, there were very few companies outside of investment banking and consulting. It sounds like it might still be that way today. But Atlantic Media Company came to Duke in the fall of my senior year to interview, and I jumped at the chance to talk to people who were at Atlantic Media Company, and there was an opening for a marketing associate within the Atlantic, and that was in DC, and I liked DC when I lived there that summer before. So I got a role there, the marketing associate role, and my first, boss, Meredith Kopich, she was an incredible leader. She was the associate publisher of the magazine. I learned so much from her. I just worked there for a year, and going with her to New York, she would include me in meetings and her pitches. Watching her was an incredible experience. She's a strong female leader in the media space who was really forging a path. She's now a top leader at Forbes. So that was a really cool entree into the media world on the print side. And then I sort of said, okay, I want to go to San Francisco. I didn't know why, but something about the West Coast was drawing me there because I've been in the South for my life. So I just said, I want to move to San Francisco, and I did. And I ultimately, Elise was able to connect me with people who lived in San Francisco who were Duke grads. And I really just wanted to know more about life out there. I didn't know really anyone out there. And I sort of I met someone who is now a really good friend of mine who happened to work at Google at the time. And she mentioned that there was an opening on the advertising side. And because I had 1 year of advertising experience, I had a little bit under my belt. And I was interviewed for a role in the technology team with my current manager, who's still my manager today. And I love the company, love the feel of it, loved how young it felt. And I signed the lease in my apartment and got the offer around the same time and moved out to California, and I've been there since.
And so it was very much a step-by-step kind of thing. You didn't know what you were going to do until you were already there, and you did it. That's really great to hear, actually, as a student.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bit different environment back then because it was 2005 or 2006. So it was a little bit different, but yeah, I took a risk in moving to San Francisco. A lot of people might say, don't pick the city, pick the job, and then you can love the city later. But I sort of went the opposite way and said, I just want to live out there, and that's my number one goal. And I'm really passionate about San Francisco, so I went for it. And then through connections back to Duke, was able to a great job at a great company.
What is the best piece of advice that you have to give to Duke students today, whether it be graduating seniors or people who are still at Duke?
So I'd say to current students, and it's funny, we talk about this, I'm engaged to a Duke grad, and a lot of my friends now in San Francisco are Duke grads. We talk about it every now and then. What would you do differently back, if you were to do college all over again? One thing that we all say is getting to know your professors. And it might sound obvious, but taking that time, so I was able to do that with Tony, but a lot of people don't have the opportunity to meet Tony and have that class. So really spending time, not just, studying and then memorizing what you need to know for a test or, writing papers, but take time to meet your professors. They've got incredible perspectives, incredible worldviews, and there are resources that, they're there for office hours. There's a lot of ways you can engage with the Duke community that you may not take advantage of because you've got all your classes, you've got your social life, you've got a lot of things going on. But I would say take that time to get to know your professors, and that will, you can come back when you're an alum and come back and say hi and talk to them about career and bounce ideas off of them. I think that's invaluable, and that's definitely a lesson all of us sort of learned after Duke. We wish we had done more of that.
And what advice would you give to graduating seniors who are about to enter their first jobs now, or who are looking for their jobs?
I would say, so soak up everything once that's once you get to the place where you actually have your first job. Soak up everything like a sponge and realize that you're going to have to work really hard. And I would say bring some humility with you, because I think a lot of us graduate from an incredible university like Duke, and we might expect that we have a certain entree, and a certain career path, but you have to be flexible. And I think bring some humility with you and realize you're going to have to do for sure entry-level work. You're probably going to have to do a little bit of sort of grunt work to work your way up. And I think flexibility, patience, knowing that you're going to get there. It's going to just take time to develop in your career. And go for something that you really enjoy. I think I identified early on at Duke the passion for media. And, I'm in the online space now. I was in TV, then I was in print, and now I'm sort of in the digital online space. So I think understanding where things are moving with the times, too. I think I realized that, print journalism was sort of going in one direction and digital was another way to go. And I identified that digital was kind of the next phase within media. So I made that decision. So I think being flexible, understanding that things are going to evolve over time. Your career path is probably going to take a lot of twists and turns. It may not be exactly what you expected when you first graduated.
Okay. And just to close off the interview, you took enterprising leadership when you were at Duke. You've been exposed to great leaders, I'm sure. And so how do you define leadership? What kind of leader are you? What is leadership to you?
So I'd say leadership and leaders come in a lot of different forms. Tony Brown is one, obviously I think of from Duke. Sam Millerisi, who I think has worked with a lot of kids. Sam was very instrumental in us with the Girls Club, the project that developed out of Tony's class, and keeping it going today. Mm-hmm. And he and Tony are very different people, but some of their qualities are very similar. And I'd say leaders are very honest. They're very forthcoming about, what's the environment around them and what's going on. I'd say flexibility. I mentioned that before. Communication is probably the biggest one that I'd say I focus on. Communication and connection. So really understanding, again, knowing your audience, but also being able to empathize. And then building that connection and that human connection. I think you have to have that sense of down to earth and humility to be able to be a leader. And a visionary. I'd say that's another thing. In Tony's class, I was paired with Venus Wilder, who was a freshman at the time, and I'd say I was more of the detail-oriented, sort of execution, detail-oriented person. And Venus is a visionary. She thought big picture, and I thought, more details. Mm-hmm. And that was a really good combination. So I think a leader who takes both of those sort of sides to it and combines them, or a leader who understands, okay, this is my area of strength. I need to pair myself with someone who complements me, and we can be a really good team that way. And then I think, this goes without saying, but tenacity and just dedication. Yeah. Being dedicated to what you're passionate about and being dedicated and staying your ground, being really strong there. And then patience at the same time. So being patient, understanding it might take time to build a company or to grow an idea.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for this interview. It's going to be great. It's a really different perspective, and I'm sure it's going to be really helpful to seniors. It was really inspiring to hear, just like for me as well.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm